Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock on March 27th, 2018. This is the meeting of the Norfolk Board of Health. We are now in session. We have a fairly full agenda. We will begin with a discussion of a nitrogen aggregation plan for the Norway Farm Subdivision. And here representing Norway Farms is?
Rick Goodrow with United Consultants, here with Rob Kane, the owner of the Norway Farm project. I do have a copy of the letter we had submitted, as well as a little color-up illustration plan, if I may hand those out to the board.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. The letter. Thanks.
I just need the, yeah.
Let's see, you have the letter.
I do, yeah.
Thank you. A copy of it.
Thank you.
Same one up on the board.
Would you mind pushing back the chair that's right at the end of this table, just a little ways that away? Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're here this evening to discuss a nitrogen aggregation plan for the Norway Farms development. The development consists of a cul-de-sac which will provide access to 14 lots within the development. There's an existing house and an existing barn that will be converted into a house. Both of those properties have 40,000, in excess of 40,000 square feet to provide for a 4-bedroom septic system. The remainder of the lots, basically 1 through 7 and 10 through 14, have between 20 and roughly 25,000 or so square feet of land area. So what we're proposing, as you can see here in green, is an area to be designated as a nitrogen aggregation easement. In our letter, we've identified that we are approximately 202,000 square feet short when we take the land area of all of the proposed lots, with the exception of the 2 lots that have the 40,000 square feet. And on page 2 of the letter, we've identified what the areas we're proposing for the nitrogen aggregation credit land are. So there's the green area that we've shown you is 434,723 square feet of land area. When we subtract from that Crest Brook Pond, which is this water body located here to the west of the site, we would have 305,522 square feet. When we subtract the bordering vegetated wetland along the pond, as well as the bordering vegetated wetland here and the isolated wetland here on the site, the area in green outside of the pond and the wetland areas would have an area of 230,000 square feet for 230,494 square feet. So if we looked at the bedroom count for the 12 building lots, we are basically in compliance with the upland area of the proposed nitrogen aggregation easement area. Mr. Kane's attorney, Elizabeth Maitland, has provided the board with a proposed nitrogen aggregation easement document. This property has been before the planning board and the Board of Health as far back as around 2006. In 2006, this property was actually issued an approval for a nitrogen aggregation plan as part of another subdivision that was proposed at that time, which was also a 14-lot open space development. We have had an opportunity to review the letter from the board's consultant, Mr. Wade Saucier from PSC, and he's basically broken down some of the parameters of the site and how I believe, I don't want to speak for Wade, but I believe he's indicating that we have adequate area to offset the area from the smaller open space lots that we're proposing. This property is going to be serviced by town water. We've looked at what potential sensitive receptors there could be. And we don't have a surface water reservoir or tributary there too. We do have Lake Street located to the west here. There are private drinking water wells located off of Lake Street. And obviously, further to the west is the town's Gold Street well. Site is located within the Zone 2 of the town's Gold Street well, which is why we really focused the development away from the westerly boundary to provide for the nitrogen aggregation credit land and offset where the septic systems, excuse me, for the lots would be located. Thank
Okay.
you. Happy
Thank
to
you.
answer any questions you may have.
Well, let's begin with our agent. Wade, do you have some comments for us?
Sure, thank you. I guess maybe I wasn't clear in my letter, I apologize on that, but there was sufficient land for the aggregate nitrogen land. Because I was working off my letter off what information you provided, and actually you're 494 square feet more. I'm not sure if the board has questions. This isn't the first time this type of project came before the board, but we do have a new board member. So I'm not sure how, when I wrote the letter, I wasn't sure how detailed I should get, because I don't want to be repetitive. But it's an equation of 10,000 square feet of land, upland land per bedroom. That's developed on a subdivision. The subdivision is located, it's engulfed in a Zone 2 on well number 1 off Gold Street. So it's in a nitrogen-sensitive area. The Zone 2 represents groundwater that would probably, at one time, will be used as potable water for the town. So any kind of activity above the land eventually gets into the ground and could probably affect that wellhead. So the state has a density control with one item with nitrogen from septic systems, and that's where you get to 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So you have a dilution factor of land mass. So in this case, looking at the subdivision, the water, groundwater is flowing towards Crystal Lake, the large lake down before. It's going towards Lake Street. It's going towards Medway Street. It's also picking up Bonstable and Chatham, and there's one more, Brewster Road. I have a very small map here of the Zone 2, where it includes, but it's so small and it's hard, so I'm not sure if it would really be beneficial to you. I do have a larger map here, and it's not very clear here either. But if you, but I could show this to you if you want to see where the detail is. And the Zone 2 is a shaded area, which is calculated through calculations from the wellhead, pumping groundwater at 150 days maximum, no precipitation going on. And this is the worst case scenario of water that would receive to the wellhead. And this subdivision is located on top of it. So the project before you is a cluster development where they have smaller lots, and the idea between this is so they can save a lot of common area without disturbing it with roads and driveways and stuff, so it stays natural. And Rick is showing you that the land is down gradient from the lots, so if any discharge from the lots are going to go towards Crystal Lake, and the effluent or the groundwater is going to flow towards into the mass density that they're calculating as being the extra 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So you're getting almost like a filter effect going towards Crystal Lake. And that's kind of like the gist of it. So as board members, you want to look at it, you want to see what's beyond the property, see if there's any sensitive receptors, which could probably be private wells, which in this town probably would be. It could be recreational waters. It could be a lot of different things where nitrates could go into and affect it. On Lake Street, there are private wells existing there. The Zone 2 doesn't cover the entire Lake Street, only half of it. Medway is also, Myrtle Street is also all private wells, but Zone 2 doesn't go beyond into that, so that area is out of the Zone 2 area. Myrtle Street has private well, it has a water service going down the middle of it, so some of the homes are served by municipal water and some have decided to stay in private. And it's scattered, it's half and half. Very few wells, at least I would say going like 2,000 or 3,000 feet from the edge of that property. Edge of the property has private wells on Myrtle Street.
Thanks, Wade.
Yep.
Questions or concerns from the board? Jeff, why don't you go first?
Wade, where are the closest private wells from Lake Street?
Okay, right here on this map, you would find them on Lake Street itself. If you want to take a look at this, there's two pieces of property. One, this is town water, town water, town water. These are the properties that are adjacent to it. And then there's well water on the opposite end of Crystal Lake. There's
Those two lots right there?
3 lots, 1, 2, 3.
That's our third one there. So to me, when we look at this, I mean, there's two ways to look at a nitrogen aggregate plan. And one is you look at it the equivalency standard, as you just went over, with the 10,000 square feet per bedroom land spread over the entire facility. And then the other is the groundwater quality standard, which is based on some type of sensitive receptor. And in this case, we do have a sensitive receptor being a groundwater well, a private well at Lake Street. Now, in this day and age, with the amount of water we're drawing out of the town, and the fact that we've got new Zone 2s coming and new wells being put in, I mean, I think it's paramount that we protect the groundwater quality in any Zone 2 in this town. I think it's probably one of the most important aspects or tasks we have on this board is to protect groundwater. So there's a mechanism in place to look at the look at the sensitive receptor and do a groundwater quality standard equation, so to speak, on this area as opposed to the equivalency standard. And that's one of the things you can look through the flow chart, you see that's at our discretion. And I think we should use that here. I mean, I would hate to see any of these areas, again, with the amount of water we're drawing out of the ground and the fact we've got new wells and we've got so much buildup going in this town, we need to protect the groundwater. So I'd like to see, I'm all for it. I think it's great, the aggregate plan. I just want to see the groundwater quality standard applied on this case.
You know what he's referring to?
Yes, I do, and I'm just looking for a piece of paper. Yes, I do. It's the mass balance
Balance analysis?
analysis, correct. And what that's about is there's a calculation that the applicant would bring to the board showing that the edge of the property, which actually be Crystal Lake, so it'd be very
Well,
difficult.
no, it's not, it's where it goes to the sensitive receptor. So in this case, it's the closest well, or any well that we happen to pick. So it's based on here. It's not a down gradient standard. It's a sensitive receptor standard.
Correct, but the applicant would have to show to the board that the edge of the
Where
development,
it meets the sensitives,
where it's going off the property, it's having 5 parts per million. And then
10 parts at this point, yeah.
10 parts, is it? Okay. I guess I'm getting Cape Cod
There is a 5 one, but
standards.
it's a stricter standard.
Okay, so it's, all right, 10 parts per million off. And I thought about that, because and I was just thinking of, that would be very difficult to calculate with a pond. I'm not sure how they would do that.
Well, in this case, the sensitive receptor we're talking about is before the pond anyway. It's where you're looking, Rick, it's the lower left right there, right? So it's not
Well, that-
really part of the pond.
That is actually,
Unless, are these wetland flags been approved?
They were a long time
Long
ago.
time ago?
But because of this development, we're so far away that we have not had them updated.
I just wondering, because obviously if they changed, it's going to change your areas.
Correct.
So, but the sensitive receptor I'm talking about,
now, if you look at the very corner, the very bottom, if you could point forward, there you go,
This
right
one?
there. That is where your first well starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next lot over.
to the left?
And then to the next right.
Okay.
Yes, and then the following right. Those are the wells, on the well.
These two are serviced by town
The water,
water.
yeah. Either way, so there's a well area, I think
This
we
one?
should have the sensitive reception. We should do that groundwater quality standard. I mean,
So that's,
I think it
that's
would
still
be,
affected by Crystal Lake? That doesn't look like it's,
But now groundwater from these will be going this way. So
okay.
Well, let's remember, though, we have, this site is Hinckley. It's sand, so it's not necessarily going with the slope.
it's, it's very permeable.
Right.
Permeable soils, yes.
So again, it kind of further points toward having that done, just because we're going to have a quick infiltration rate.
Yes, there is.
That's what I figured. But you haven't done testing, right? I didn't see any test pits, or have you?
We have done testing.
Okay.
We've actually scheduled to do additional testing because the original proposal and testing was done for a conventional subdivision. So now we have to do some additional testing for the open space development.
Yep.
Where's the boundary of this subdivision?
It's, to the west, it's the green line.
Okay, so it's the middle of Crest Brook then.
Correct.
So when you're talking about a boundary, where basically the water is leaving your site, Are you talking the shore, or are you talking the middle of the pond?
I'd have to look at the mass balance equation in more detail, but I believe I don't believe there are any provisions for the water, and I mean,
I think
trying
it's
to
just
get a
subtract
travel
it out.
time
Yeah, I think it's just
cross
subtract it out.
water is,
You gotta remember, we're not talking about overland, we're talking groundwater flow too.
Will it be water under the pond presumably, but also it's going to be breaking into the pond.
Well, the pond is groundwater.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
have a dilution factor, you have evaporation factor, and you
That's
have,
not- Yeah, that,
the
part of
flow-
it's not in that equation though, we're talking about.
correct, and that's, and when I looked at this project, and I had, and thinking that maybe the mass balance equation would come into the conversation, I'm saying, well, this is unique, we have a pond as a buffer, and is a pond a good thing or bad thing? I think, if anything, it's more of a positive thing of denitrifying, because it's open water, there's a lot of physical things going on. On going to the left where those two sites are, where the private wells, I mean, correct, no, well, actually, let's go the second house shown with the private well, right, no, next to your left, right there, that one. It would be interesting to see how much land from the lots that are adjacent to it, how much buffer zone land calculating out. Does each of those lots represent a 40,000 square feet? Because then you would actually have your 40,000 square feet as you would normally with Title V. And that's how I think that's how the applicant should look at this, or the board should look at this. Because it's good that you guys are looking at the sensitive receptors, private wells. Very important.
We have to at this point. Like I said, we're drawing so much water out of this town. And if you look here on the size of the lots that we have here, some of these are probably older on Medway. They probably have cesspools that are probably still working because they're in Hinckley soils. So they're probably working fine. So they're small lots, and now you're creating this hot spot here. And I think to look at this without a mass balance would be a disservice, honestly.
So what is the problem, that you won't get accurate results from the mass balance analysis? Will it give you an overreading or an underreading?
I'm not an expert in mass balance, but I could look into it. But you have a variable here, which is open water. And I don't think mass balance calculation or the examples that the state gives you include water on the edge of a property or within a property.
And what about the lots across the street on Lake Street before the
Okay,
the
there's,
pond?
on that, thanks for being my pointer, my human pointer, right there, across the street, there's a house with a private well. Then on the opposite side, you're running into wetland.
All right, so there's another private well there too. So I mean, obviously it has to be located, which is the closest or at least the most direct from the site.
Those three are.
Right.
And then you have some other wells that are also on Lake Road, Lake Street also, which is the zone 2, which could possibly be affected, but those three are the closest.
Could I interject? My name's Rob Kane, the owner of the property. I believe when we're talking about Mr. St. John's property, which is that house right there, he moved in a couple of years ago and he brought town water into his home. I'm about 99% sure.
Okay.
And then the other, I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but the two other things I'd like to point out is I believe most of these wells are artesian wells from the time that the houses were built. And so we're talking about groundwater flow, not artesian water that would be down deeper and sealed in the bedrock. And then the other is we went with an open space subdivision at the suggestion of the planning board, because it allowed us to do very little tree cutting, very little soil removal. That whole inside part of the property is where I had my tree farm originally. So in that whole side by Crystal Lake is going to be left all natural trees and where the berm is. But on a standard subdivision, with the houses spread out, we would have had 13 homes. With the open space, they allow one extra bedroom. So, and another way to think of it, or the way I think of it, is what we're talking about is really the extra one bedroom. And I understand the ground.
That's what I'm saying. It's a different thing where we're looking at groundwater protection. You know, you've been
Yeah.
in this town, and we all know how important it is right now to
Yeah.
be thinking about it and thinking into the future of it. And if you look back at 2006, where you said there was an aggregate plan approved, things have changed in the last 12 years. You know, this town has grown a lot. And we're, you see the developments coming in, the density's coming in, and we have a new well going in, and we're gonna be pumping a lot of water out of this ground here. I'd be more concerned, honestly, I would go the other way and say, with these small lots around here, I'd like to make sensitive receptors at the whole property line. And I know DEP doesn't call it out as a sensitive receptor that way, but DEP doesn't really look into it as much. We here, as a town, have to protect ourselves. So there may be sensitive receptors with the wells. I'd like to see it actually more, but I probably can't get the board's backing on that. But at least, at the very least, I think we have to look at the wells on Lake Street and make sure that we meet that groundwater standard. I think
Okay.
we owe it to everyone and to the abutters there.
Yep.
So-
I guess my only point was that it's the difference of one bedroom.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
completely
one
understood.
4-bedroom home.
Yep, but then
Versus
when
what
you
I'm
get
allowed to
that, though,
do
when you
by
have a
right.
conventional, though, at least you're spreading that flow out on that area of the lot. You have an acre lot, so you're kind of giving a little bit more of a spread as opposed to making, in essence, a hot spot. You've got a lot of concentrated sewage coming into one area on a fast draining soil, so.
Okay.
So where would this testing be done if we did do this mass analysis testing? Just one
It's a
spot?
calculation more
It's a
than.
calculation.
Oh, it's a calculation.
Yeah. It's a calculation. It's at the discretion of the board and/or DEP if they want it done, and from what I'm hearing, the board is looking to have us do that. We can prepare that analysis.
Well, Jeff, do you want to make a motion to,
Oh,
you have a,
yeah, just information, looking at my notes, the credit would be ending at the edge of the boundary of the credit land. So it'd
It
be,
would be the path to the sensitive receptor.
well, I mean, the
Right,
mass
but
balance,
where it meets the edge of the property.
edge of the credit land.
Yeah.
So I guess it wouldn't include.
Right,
the
but
land.
not at the furthest edge. It's in line with the sensitive receptor. It's not at the down gradient part doesn't come into play when you look at the sensitive receptor. It's just in line with that, and that's under the mass balance. You can see that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to, prepare that, go over it with Cleve.
Yep.
When you say it's just an equation, what do you mean? What is it? What are
It
the
takes into
pieces
effect
of the
analysis.
equation?
Not a test.
Right, it takes into effect, you look at the sensitive receptor, and it's almost like you're drawing a line between the project and that sensitive receptor.
Okay.
And you add in what's going in as far as sewage flow, nitrogen. I'm not sure, honestly, how the water does affect it. That might be a subtraction. And at that property line, when you're getting to the sensitive receptor, you come up with a certain, they give you a value for gallons per day, what the concentration is.
Okay.
And you come up with what ends up with the resulting concentration at that point.
And it
you
can't
want
be
to below
above the 10?
Below,
Okay.
you want it to be below, 10 or below. so.
Okay.
well, there's a motion for this analysis to be done,
I don't
right,
think you need
Jeff?
to make a motion. It's just to continue the hearing, right?
Well, but the reason for the continuation is so they can do the calculations.
it's almost
But
a
we
di-
haven't even decided that we have to do this yet. So we as a board are going to have to take this position that we want to have this analysis done. So if you want to move that we do the analysis, and somebody seconds it,
Okay.
All
Motion
right.
to have the applicant perform a mass balance equation, mass balance analysis on the project.
I second the motion.
for the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Right?
so you get this analysis to us, give it to our engineer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll need to continue,
Next meeting, right, or whenever they're done, so.
but we can be responsive to whenever you submit your analysis and Wayne has a chance to review it.
Yeah, we should be able to get it done maybe next week, the latest, so whatever your next meeting is.
We haven't got one set yet, so it'll depend
Well,
upon how fast
we'll have
you
to
get
get one
things.
early. If they're gonna be done, they're not gonna put it out till 6 weeks.
Oh, no, we haven't got any time set yet. We'll be responsive to your work.
If you get it done, he's there, we can always set a meeting to,
Okay.
you know.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another nitrogen-sensitive issue in front of us. The next one, an update on the Preserve Bikini Pond, the subdivision's nitrogen credit land.
Oh, I'm by myself on this one. Okay, I just wanted to inform the board that we do also have another nitrogen aggregate loading subdivision in town. And as my letter to you wrote, that it came in near the tail end of the subdivision. And it was brought created through the conservation, the selectman's office, and the legal department of the town. Subdivision was a 48-lot subdivision. It was created in 1999. 3 parcels were transferred to the town of Norfolk, I think for a cost of $100. And then I think in 2016, the conservation in the town allowed that nitrogen, Title V nitrogen credit land be available on those 3 parcels of land that was transferred to the town. And that's what's going on. Oh, and the percentage of, and I also in my letter to you, I broke down the lots that it's affecting. From 48 lots, going through breaking it down, we're ending up with 9 lots. And from those 9 lots, not all the lots are using the nitrogen credit land. Only one has so far, and it was like roughly 5,000 square feet to make it a 50,000, make it a 5-bedroom. The other lots in the area, some of them have not tapped into the credit land. They're 40,000 plus, and they're a 4-bedroom house.
Right.
Very, very low impact. It's the same zone 2 as this one. And as the one we just previously talked about, well number 1 off Gold Street. And want to inform the board that's what's going on.
So are there any gradient-sensitive receptors at this location?
Off the location, there are private wells probably located on the opposite side of the railroad in town. But also, if you look at the subdivision itself, I mean, they offered a lot of land for the nitrogen credit land, almost too much. I mean, there's
We're talking a million square feet.
I'm sorry?
It's a very, very large quantity of land.
Very large, and it could have probably only used parcel A, would have been satisfactory for them.
And this is one that we've already discussed before. I know town council has already approved it as far as nitrogen. This isn't something that we're reopening to look at on, sensitive receptors or aggregate plans. This has already been done.
So-
And at this point, I believe we're looking at more how we tracking these numbers to go forward to make sure that, minuscule amount compared to what we have available, but we should at least somehow track the numbers that we're using for these bedrooms when they come up, and I think that's kind of what we're at right now. I mean, town council has already reviewed and approved this restriction, and part of that was the nitrogen, be it not named or in there or what. But if you look at the aggregation loading guidance by CMR 15216, it actually doesn't have to be called out as a nitrogen credit land as long as it's in a conservation restriction that's being used for that. So I think that's probably what town council came up when they did actually review this. So we're more at a, how do we track this than how do we approve it, because we've already approved it. So isn't that not where we're at?
And we're tracking like a few thousand square feet
Yeah, I
at a
mean,
time, and
just-
we got like a million square feet to work with. So-
Exactly.
So we're not in really bad
No,
shape
it's
here.
not. I mean, if we're just trying to dot the i's and cross the t's, and we're just saying, okay, let's put on the plans when they come in, how much land we have left.
And I think recognition from the board, too, is very important.
Yeah.
All right.
Because
Is there further action required then?
No.
All right, all right. In that case, this is great because it's 7:30. And according to our schedule, we do have another item to bring forward, which is actually a proposed amendment to the existing regulations of the Town of Norfolk Board of Health, restricting the sale of tobacco products. And essentially what we're talking about is the prohibition of tobacco sales in any retail establishment that operates or has a healthcare institution within it, such as a pharmacy. So that is the proposal that is before us at this time. So I'm assuming that some of the folks who are here,
You just need to open the hearing and read the notice of hearing into the record, please.
the notice of hearing, which is located somewhere on my table.
Yeah, it's here. Right here, yep.
It's right at the bottom of the file. Thank you. Okay, so to be formal about this is a public hearing of the Norfolk Board of Health called to order at 7:30 on March 27th. The purpose of the hearing is to consider an amendment to the existing regulations of the Norfolk Board of Health restricting the sale of tobacco products. The proposed amendment will prohibit the sale of tobacco products in any retail establishment that operates or has a healthcare institution within it, such as a pharmacy. The proposed amendment to the regulation is available for review. I hope you all had a chance to, who are here. That's kind of what I already said. So the hearing is now called to order. So, we have some visitors. What I hope is that as you will raise your hand and be recognized, you identify who you are, and we will proceed. So is there somebody who would like to say something? In the back, Walter Byron. It's Walter Byron, I can recognize him.
Hi, I'm Walter Byron. I'm here in the capacity of the Vice Chair of the Planning Board. And I'd just like to let you know that the Planning Board strongly disagrees with this particular amended recommendation. And we feel it's discriminatory in that you're pointing it at one particular business in town and not excluding all others as well, or including all others as well, excuse me. And so that's our position, and we just wanted you to know that.
Walter, does that mean that if we were simply saying there shall be no cigarette sales in the town of Norfolk, we'd be getting off the hook with the planning board?
I think, I can't speak for the board, because that would be another vote that we'd have to discuss and take. I can only offer you my own point of view, which is I think that, too, wouldn't get my vote, because I don't think we should be doing that, personally. I just think that that we're trying to legislate morality, and we shouldn't be doing that. After all, we have liquor stores in town. We know that cigarettes are sold within a 10-minute drive anywhere you want to go. So I just don't think we should. That's my personal point of view. I don't know how the board would vote if that other version of it came forward.
Okay. Is there any response to Walter's comment? It's interesting.
Honestly, we touched on this a little bit when we talked about this at the hearing, that we were signaling out one store in town. And we've enacted regulations that make sure you have to be 21 years or older to buy these cigarettes. And we are pointing this regulation at about 8 lineal feet of shelf space in the one largest retail store in town. And I agree with Walter was saying, I think this is over-regulation. At this point, before you say anything, I know your stance on this, we're saying you have to be 21 or older to buy tobacco. An adult should be able to walk into a store, if that store chooses to sell tobacco, and see it without it's not causing harm to public health by seeing it. The kids aren't going to get it anymore, and they're not getting it there. As in most regulations, we're behind the times on that. I mean, most of the kids now can get this online. I mean, going into a convenience store or a drugstore to see it, that has nothing to do with public health. Trying to regulate that is, as Walter said, is really just taking someone's choice away. You can walk into a supermarket that has a pharmacy and find aisles of wine and beer, but we're going to point out, you know, like I said, 8 to 10 feet of shelf space. Personally, I can't get behind it either, but I'd like to hear what other people have to say, too. So,
Fran, would you like to rebut or have another opinion on this?
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, wait, one sec. We're discussing right now what Walter just had to say. Let's let the board respond, and then you'll be next, all right?
So in Massachusetts, as of November 17th, 2017, 160 municipalities have banned the sale of tobacco products in pharmacies. And in 2008, Boston was the first municipality to ban the sale of tobaccos. So we're not setting a precedent here. The point is that a pharmacy is a healthcare institution. It's incompatible with the mission of a healthcare institution to sell a product that causes over 400,000 preventable deaths a year and millions of dollars in medical expenses. Now, when you say that's a small display, if you've walked in and looked at the display, there are smoking cessation products on your left. They say, take healthy steps, take small steps to make you healthy. And start here at Walgreens. And next to it, the electronic cigarettes and the flavored cigarettes. And next to that, the tobacco products. Now, many organizations, the American Pharmacists Association, the American Medical Association, the Mass Association of Medicine, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Association have all come out and said that pharmacies should not sell cigarettes. You're sending a mixed message to patients. If you're a patient and you're walking in going to get medicines and advice from a pharmacist on how to either they have whatever they have, and at the same time you have these cigarettes, it doesn't make sense. Now, you can't compare a pharmacy with a convenient mart. The convenient mart does not give advice on medication. You can't compare apples and oranges. Maybe our town only has one pharmacy. You can go to surrounding towns, when I said 160 communities, Medfield, Millis, Medway, Walpole. You cannot buy cigarettes in pharmacies in those stores because they realize that there is a disconnect in selling tobacco products, I shouldn't only say cigarettes because it's tobacco products, in a pharmacy. So that's where we're at. We have a responsibility on this board to protect the public health in whatever way that we see makes sense. I mean, we have a mandate that says the right to engage in business must yield to the paramount right of government to protect the public health. And that's all we're trying to do here. We're taking little steps. Now, unfortunately, we only have one fortunately or unfortunately, there's only one pharmacy, but that's the way that it is.
Well,
I do want to mention one thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate your point of view. You could even question whether that is a pharmacy next door. They're a convenience store. They sell milk, they sell bread, they sell things that you can buy.
They're
at the other
licensed.
Please, if
Yes.
you had your say, may I? I have never been a smoker in my life. I understand the point of view that you're putting forward. I do believe that tobacco is a cancer-causing agent. Nevertheless, I think that when you're trying to specifically limit it in one location within town and not dealing with the others, that's wrong. It's just wrong. I don't care what 160 other towns have done. This is Norfolk. We have a chance to do what we think is right. And I don't think what you're proposing is right. Thank you.
All right, I'll take one little shot at this. Just a question,
Sure.
Walter. And that is that recently at a town meeting, we decided to not allow the production and sale of marijuana. Now, if you compare the known public health hazards of tobacco on the one hand and marijuana on the other, people can reasonably ask, what were you thinking to disallow this product and allow tobacco sales?
Well, I think marijuana has additional negative effects to people's performance. You're going to find, once marijuana starts being sold recreationally in the state, that the number of DUI incidents on the roads, as intercepted by the police of various towns and the state police, are going to go up because people can be affected by the ingestion of marijuana. And so that has an additional issue with it beyond the health issue, in my view.
Well, sure, but that applies to alcohol as well,
It does indeed.
and we allow that,
It does indeed.
but we don't allow the marijuana.
Well,
I'm just using things that are kind of similar in terms of their, interaction with the body and so on.
I understand.
All right, one last comment, and we'll go on to the next person.
Yeah, and we did mention, obviously, tobacco, and I'm in agreement too, it's not healthy, but people do have the choice to use it if they want. When you walk into the pharmacy, and you had mentioned, if you walk in and you go to pick up your medicine, you're gonna be exposed to seeing tobacco. If I was to go down to the pharmacy and get insulin for my diabetes, I would walk through aisles and aisles of candy and soda that causes obesity, which I think is probably the second largest health problem. And nothing's being mentioned about that. So where do we stop? If this was about that and sugar and the kids and obesity, again, we're gonna go down that route. That's a public health issue too. Tobacco's not illegal. Sugar's not illegal.
Yeah.
They're allowed to sell it, so.
Yeah, let's not go back and
I
forth,
know.
Russell. We're going this way.
Yes, let's
Thank
go
you,
this
Walter.
way.
It's somebody else's turn back there. I thought way in the back was the person who had his hand up. You're okay now?
You don't want to jump in? Does anyone want to jump into the discussion?
All right, in the front. You wanted to say something?
Hi, yes. My name is...
Microphone.
Oh, thank you. My name is Cheryl Sabara. I am the Director of Policy and Law for the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards and their senior staff attorney, and you can blame me for helping draft this amendment. And I have a couple of things I'd like to say. Number one, and I know Norfolk is Norfolk, and it really doesn't matter what any other municipality did, but as of March 7th of this year, we do have almost 74% of the population in the state covered by regulation that prohibits the sale of tobacco in pharmacies. As to what a previous speaker said about the discriminatory aspect of this policy, I should say that that was actually sued on about 10 years ago when the city of San Francisco prohibited the sale of tobacco in pharmacies but exempted out big box stores like BJ's or Costco. The court came back and said actually that was discriminatory. If you're going to ban it as a rational public health policy, then you have to ban it in all pharmacies, small and large. So the discrimination issue has come up, and the courts have ruled that it is discriminatory if you're going to ban it in pharmacies to not ban it in all pharmacies in a municipality. Currently, there are 112 Walgreens in Massachusetts that exist in a municipality that prohibits the sale of tobacco in pharmacies. Not one of those Walgreens has come to a Board of Health meeting and opposed it. In fact, there has not been one pharmacy that I'm aware of, and I've been doing this for over 20 years now, that has come to speak in opposition to a pharmacy ban, be it a Stop and Shop that has a pharmacy, Walgreens, or a mom and pop pharmacy. It's not a large part of their business. And what we found is that, and Boston did some research on this, is that seeing cigarettes, if you're going in to get your heart medication and you're a smoker, or your NRT and you're a smoker, just seeing those packs triggers an urge to smoke, which is one of the reasons. That's one of the rationale behind this policy. Now, this is clearly your decision. It's not my decision. I should also tell you that the state legislature is considering a bill on this. We have it on extremely good authority that it will pass probably within the next 4 weeks or so. So whether the planning board likes it or not, general counsel has looked at it, has not determined it for the legislature, has not found it to be discriminatory, and chances are very good that Norfolk will, whether you vote it or not, ban tobacco sales in pharmacies.
Thank you. Any response?
Oh, I just wanted to point out, too, that, this whole idea of smoking cessation products are only sold in the pharmacies. They're not sold in the Norfolk food outlet that sells cigarettes. So people can go in to the pharmacy and ask for advice from the pharmacist on how can I stop smoking. But right next to it are the tobacco products that they're trying to get away from. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, they have to be
And-
asking the cashier for advice for that one.
I'm sorry.
Have to ask the cashier for advice.
So,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'm Larry Sullivan, 3 Margot's Way. Just point out about the American Pharmacists Association. They've called for an end to license renewals of pharmacies that sell tobacco products. The Board of Health, among its other obligations, is charged with oversight of the public health of the residents of Norfolk. This is not a business interest decision. This is about public health interests. There's only one right answer from my perspective regarding this issue, and that's to ban tobacco products from pharmacies. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Yes.
Beth Jackson, 27 Wildwood. I would second Larry's point. I too see that it's your job as the Board of Health to protect the health of the public, and ask you to do that with this this regulation. Thank you.
Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Chapman. I spent 10 years on this board. As a matter of fact, Tom, myself, and I forget who at the time, went to Eagle Brook when we were the first town in this area to actually create some tobacco regulation, and we caught a lot of heat from it, if you remember, Tom.
Very well. Yep.
However, we also have a retail store in the center of our town, and that retail store filled a very large need that was absent once Fred Kenny sold his pharmacy retail store when I first moved here in '93. My God, it's been a long time. Anyways, the point I'm making is this. You've made some great strides since then. You've banned it on a 21-year-old. You can't legislate personal actions. And I think as a board, like we did back in the early 2000s, Tom, and you subsequently have done further regulation, why are we squeezing one very important retail outlet in the town of Norfolk that I have no idea what their profitability is for a store, but it's relatively slow in there. They make money from their pharmacy, but I would hate to compromise that. I think it's anti-business, and let's roll the dice. If it's going to happen in 4 weeks, it's a moot point.
so Mr. Chipman,
By the way, I've never been a smoker. I do carry an inhaler, and I've had asthma for 28 years.
well, I'm glad that you're healthy right now. So, do you know, we invited Walgreens to come to this hearing. Betsy, have we gotten any response from Walgreens?
No.
So, they don't seem to be concerned about this. And 112 Walgreens are no longer selling cigarettes in Massachusetts.
Based on her representation, yeah, okay, I'll take it.
No,
I don't know
I'm
if
sorry.
it is or not.
I
Yes,
can give you
okay.
the literature.
I'm sure.
So we have not heard from Walgreens, so I'm not quite sure if it's, they don't seem to have a problem with this. We have sent them a letter telling them this is what we're planning on doing, so come and tell us what your opinion is about it.
Here's the funny thing, and we'll go back.
Peter, before you're speaking for Walgreens, let me respond, because
I'm not gonna speak for
I did talk to the manager.
Oh.
And in fact invited her personally to come here, and she said probably not, because it is not corporate policy for Walgreens to stand up at public meetings like this one and take a position on this issue. So it's just something that they feel they don't want to be in a position to do. So I don't think we can take it necessarily as acquiescence or anything else, but we're just essentially confronting a corporate's belief that they don't belong here.
Well, I think
But the
that,
decision could be made in the boardroom afterwards, not at the public hearing, where they didn't
Oh,
like
yeah.
it, they could take action.
even though they haven't taken action in 112 stores.
Right.
So.
All right, okay. Well, one last comment, Peter, then
Yes,
we'll go to...
thank you. All I want to say is, when we trailblazed at least this immediate area for towns, and we did pass it, in the town of Norfolk in the early 2000s. Mr. Chairman, if you remember, it wasn't very long after that that the state took an action. So rather than compromise a vital, important business in the center of town, why not we roll the dice with the 4 weeks passing? Because if we're going to take her data at 112 stores, we'll take her data on the 4 weeks that's going to pass.
All right.
That's my comment.
Thank you, Peter. In the very back, would you deliver that to the person?
I'm Doug Kozer, I'm a retired physician, and similar to you, Mr. Gilbert, I had a conversation with a mail manager Friday here at Walgreens, and he knew all about the meeting, said he got a letter from the board, and we had a conversation about how much business they did in cigarettes. And he said $200 a day. And that's $12 to $15 a pack. That's what they're doing. Is he worried about it? No. You know, this is a corporate thing. And then he said to me, Walgreens voluntarily gave up selling cigarettes in their pharmacies, which is true. Everybody here knows that. You know that?
CVS.
CVS, I'm sorry, CVS.
Yeah.
CVS,
Yes, I know
you're aware of
CVS,
that.
yes, I'm aware.
So then, I think the economic issue is probably, doesn't make much sense. It's a very small hit. Do you agree with that, Mr. Gilbert? Did she give you numbers? This guy gave you
No,
numbers.
I didn't actually ask. I did ask a bit about how big the sales are.
He told me, I didn't ask, he volunteered.
There was a reference to the steady customers who they walk in the door and they immediately look for the appropriate pack to give them because they know who wants what they want. But there must be a small number to be able to have that kind of relationship.
Yes.
But I do want to add this one point, though, to what you just said, and that is CVS did stop the sale of cigarettes back in 2014. And a lot of things were written about that impact of that particular company, a large pharmaceutical company, about making that decision, especially on their own bottom line. And it turned out that in pharmacies you have what you call the pharmacy, and you got the front of the store. The front of the store revenues in the 2014 compared to 2013 were down about 4.5%. Now that's across the country. Now 4.5% is way more than probably 200 a day. But then again, this is Norfolk, as we've already stated.
That's right.
And probably the demographics are not working for you if you're trying to sell cigarettes in a town like this.
Exactly.
On the other hand, what happened in 2014 is their pharmacy sales went up 16%. Now, why would not selling cigarettes in the front of the store increase the pharmaceutical sales in the back? Could it have been that a lot of people basically began to feel a little differently about CVS? That, hey, this is a company that actually takes their health business seriously and are making a statement in a corporate way that had an impact on the company in a positive sense. Because overall, the front of the store was down, the back of the store was way up. The overall sales in 2014 compared to 13 in CVS stores across the country, 10% higher.
By
Retail.
the same token, apparently this Walgreens in Norfolk is much busier overall than the one in Franklin. I was also told that. There were more cigarettes
The game
sold in
in town.
Franklin as compared to here, but the overall dollar bottom line is bigger right here.
Yeah.
So that's the economic point.
Well, thank you for your comments. How about anybody else before we have a go around round two here? Anybody else? Okay, Walter, it's your turn.
Okay, well, just that last comment, that's just speculation on your part. You know, there's really no data that you've quoted that says this is really why the sales went up in the farm.
The data are the data, the rationale of why.
Well, the rationale is speculation on your part.
I agree. It could be the
that's-
economy change.
Some data.
Economy
And the other thing, regarding the marijuana issue that we touched on half an hour ago, whatever it was, there's an argument, you can go on either side of it, that says that marijuana is also a gateway drug. So that if you start
Again,
down that
without the
road,
data, you shouldn't speculate.
well, fair enough, but it's an argument out there, and you know that.
Well, I know there's an argument out there,
Okay.
but not related to legal marijuana.
There is a Canadian study from the 90s because, the United States is way behind the 8 ball when it comes to health care. European countries have banned the sale of cigarettes in pharmacies for a long time, and most of Canada has banned the sale of cigarettes in pharmacies since the 90s. And the same thing came up about businesses and finances. And when the ban went into effect, or before the ban went into effect, the American pharmacists got out there and, not American, Canadian, and they did an education campaign, and they said to shop at stores that didn't sell cigarettes. And there were lots of mom and pop stores that didn't sell cigarettes or tobacco products. And the sales, people went to those stores because they knew that those establishments cared about their health. So I think there is some evidence that maybe CVS sales did go up because of that. But I'm not here for that. I'm here because I really do, in my heart, believe this is a public health issue. And we need to separate it. This board is responsible for public health. And if we can do something to promote the public health of individuals in this community by not having a display of cigarettes in a pharmacy where they go for medication to get healthy, then I think that's what we should do.
Well, I think you'd be in a stronger position if you were proposing to ban the sale of tobacco products in the town, period.
Well,
But
one
that's
step
just
at a time.
my view, but anyway.
Anybody else want to say anything at all? Because we'll close the hearing if there are no other.
May I just, I apologize, but just to
Yep.
clarify, this 112 number I did not make the number up. There is a state website where you can see where pharmacies, which pharmacies are registered, and a colleague from the Mass Municipal Association is charged with keeping lists on all different tobacco control strategies. So he used the registration website to see where all of these Walgreens are and compared it to DPH's database on the regulatory landscape, the local regulatory landscape. So it didn't fly out of the sky, and no one made this up. These are real numbers.
Understood. If there are no other comments, I thank you all for your interest, and we will be considering this proposal and taking a vote. Not necessarily right this second, but pretty soon. And it'll certainly be advertised.
It's pretty soon this evening or some other meeting?
Well, we're going to talk about that. I'm not sure. The fact that the state is actually considering this ban on pharmacies is an interesting topic. I don't know how others on the board feel, but we will discuss it. The fact that it may be coming around the bend in other avenues. Maybe I hung out with Peter way too long, but the sense of not essentially zeroing in on a particular retail establishment, which is the one thing that's different about this. We are such a small town with one pharmacy that when you say you shall not do this, you're affecting one retail outlet. And there is an inherent inside me feeling of unfairness about hitting one person or one entity and nobody else. I'd much rather ban cigarette smoking cigarette sales altogether, frankly. I think it would have a very marginal impact on the economy of Norfolk. And it would have a probably significant impact on the number of people who just decide, if I gotta go all the way over to the other place to buy them now, maybe I'll just think about quitting. Could happen. Actually, yes, sir.
Would you be willing to change this motion to what you're saying, or this amendment?
Well, that would be a dramatically different scale of a proposal which would require another advertisement and another public hearing. Because I imagine this room would be a whole lot fuller if we were talking about every single place that sells cigarettes in Norfolk. There are quite a few.
Be more turnout and more public.
Well, we love the attraction and the attention, but no, we can't do it tonight. We can't do it tonight.
I understand.
My only reservation about what is going on in the legislature, is that I think the bill was introduced in 2016. It's gone through many committees and gone through the Public Health Committee, which we wrote a letter to. We actually, back in July, just to remind you, we signed a letter to Speaker DeLeo saying, please make sure that this bill gets through the House. And so it's been going since 2016, and I'm hopeful that it will be passed. Right now, based on what other municipalities have done, I think it's 78% of the population of Massachusetts.
It says 74.
74% of the population of Massachusetts lives in communities where you can't buy tobacco products in pharmacies. That will be 100% if it goes through. But is it going to go through? Just because it takes so long for them to get things through, even though it's moving in a positive
I've noticed
direction.
that. I'm older than you were. I've
Yeah.
noticed that.
So that's my only reservation.
All right, folks, well, if there are no other comments, thank you for coming again. It's been a very, I think, worthwhile conversation, and
Thank you.
the hearing is now closed.
Welcome to stay.
Somebody needs to make a motion, one way or another.
Well, it has to be in the affirmative anyway.
We're going to
So-
make a motion to close the hearing.
Oh, make a motion to close the hearing. Okay. So I motion that we close the hearing.
Second.
I already did. All right, and all those in
I'm
favor?
sorry.
Aye.
Okay.
Well, I announced it, I didn't actually make the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I am firmly in the middle on this one.
Mm.
I got to tell you.
It
When
seems
I-
like we're doing this in principle only, in my take. I mean, again, you walk into a pharmacy, there's a lot of unhealthy things in there. There's more than, let me finish, there's more carcinogenics, there's more obese-causing things. I'm honestly, as a parent and as a former tobacco user, I'm more concerned about the sugar that you see blasting out everywhere than the small display of smoking items. You know, everyone knows where they can go to get tobacco. And I can't think that we sit here almost an elitist point of view saying people can't control themselves, so we have to control it for them when they see these tobacco products.
No.
But that's what it comes off as. Now, if the state says no tobacco products in pharmacy, great. But I can't get behind this fact that we're gonna tell people, adults, that have the right to choose this and use it, because it is a legal substance, that they can't do it. You know, you could chew gum and use artificial sweeteners and get cancer as well. And you could use so much sugar to go to beast and have heart issues. It's an adult's choice to make these decisions. And we shouldn't say, you can't do this now. We've already made it 21 and under to can't buy cigarettes. So it's too much legislation on this for a dying thing, I see. It really appears that smoking's necessarily getting toward on its way out. Maybe not totally ever will, but it's getting less. And I remember even me growing up, it was a lot more available. And now you walk in, like I said, you see a small shelf area on it. You talk to kids, kids aren't going to pharmacies and getting cigarettes. It's not that anymore. Everything's online now. So a retailer has a little bit in there. To me, I'm sorry.
It's the
not a big
message
deal.
that we're
It's
sending.
a principle. We can't regulate a principle.
Well, there are two principles.
Yeah.
One is the principle of the nanny state. The other is the principle that how can a pharmacy whose mission is to protect people's health at the same time sell a product that has basically, if it's used in the way it's normally used, the probability of either making you very sick or killing you.
And-
That is
Again,
called
go with any
incredible.
product, walk down the aisles, and you know,
Well,
you're a
look,
chemist, you
well,
can
well,
pull
no,
out
no,
how
no.
many.
But you know what? You can pick up one of those little bitty cans of soda and take it down and suffer no
It's okay.
ill effects.
It's
Except,
okay.
You
well,
can-
hold on, except is the sugar, including the high fructose corn sugar, is
Yeah.
addictive. And it does change your brain and make you want more, and make you think
Well,
you're
it's
not
not
hungry.
addictive in the same sense that nicotine is addictive.
Exactly.
But it is addictive, you wanna put it, you wanna
Well-
split
If you
hairs on it.
drink quarts of it or liters of it a day, yes, but if, you know, anything, any of
Anything
those
is
things
a-
that,
anything
no,
is
no,
a-
any of those things that you just talked about in moderation that you see in the aisles are not going to cause the over 400,000 preventable deaths a year. That nicotine.
You're saying if you can moderate it, but again, it's the way you walk in there, the way it's advertised to you, the way it's shoved in your face, the way you walk down aisles of soda, candy, chocolates. It's not meant to be moderation. It's there to buy. Now you look at the cigarettes, just a muted display behind the counter. Honestly, I had to look for them before I'd even know they were still there anymore. You used to walk down the aisles of pharmacy. Remember? Pipe tobacco, cigars, you'd smell it when you'd walk down that aisle. It has been so reduced right now. I'm sorry. This is just too much regulation. There's a lot of things.
Let's not repeat ourselves. You
There's
said
a
that
lot
more
of
than
things
once.
that we could regulate that are unhealthy for you in this
So
town.
maybe we should just make a motion to either to vote on this
Well,
amendment.
you have the power to do that. I will tell you right now that tonight, I'm not going to vote for it. I want to wait a month. And by the time those guys get back here with their calculations and a couple other things happen, if in another month the state has basically still dragged their feet on this, I'm not quite sure what my reaction is going to be. My difficulty has got nothing to do with the anti-state. It's got nothing. It has a lot to do with the incongruity of having a health store
I hope
selling
so.
something which makes you sick. It makes you sick if you use it in the way it is normally used, not if you go crazy about it, like and turn into a 300-pound,
So
bowl of
should we
jelly.
ban painkillers?
What?
Should we ban painkillers?
I'm saying use it as prescribed or use it as it's normally used for whatever purposes it has. But when you do that with cigarettes, it kills you. When you do that with any other product that I can think of, it doesn't. Cigarettes are special. They're especially potent and are especially dangerous. That's the reason why we have all these regulations. Now, granted, what's behind cigarettes? Alcohol. And we have alcohol sales in this town. And yeah, a certain percentage of the people that drink can't handle it, and they become alcoholics, and they have very serious health issues. So alcohol is something else that you say, well, should we regulate that? Well, no, we're probably not going to, because we know an awful lot of people that can drink in moderation, enjoy a glass of wine with dinner, and how are you going to tell them that's not something you can do? It's a whole different story than cigarettes.
Well, if pharmacy-
Cigarettes, you smoke, you die.
If pharmacy
There's
starts
very
selling
little.
alcohol, then we'll worry.
Well, I tell you what.
It's called
I-
NyQuil.
NyQuil's called
So
NyQuil.
anyway, I see the incongruity of selling cigarettes in pharmacies. At the same time, we're picking on one pharmacy, one store. If there were two, it'd be okay. If we're doing it with just one.
But there could be. There could be in the future. If Stop
Well-
and Shop opened up, Stop and Shops have pharmacies,
Yeah,
okay? It could happen,
yeah.
but I'm willing to give you the month
Well, I tell
and
you
come
what.
back in a month.
I tell you what,
And then I think we need to take a vote on it.
tell you what, let's consider this to be on the agenda for the April meeting, whenever that works out to
Okay.
be. So give us a month to see what the state can do. If you have any influence over anybody in the State House,
Well, it's passed through, like I said, most
Oh,
of
where
the
is it now? Is it
committees.
still in the committee?
It's in Ways and Means Committee at this point, but it went through Public Health. It passed favorably in Public Health. And I think the problem is, well, I don't know what the problem is. Is it just because we have one store in this town that everybody is afraid that it's going to close its doors or something? I don't know.
well, you know what?
But I don't want to go
I
there.
don't have
That's
the
not where
sense
I
of
want to
that
go
being
there.
the issue.
Yep, I don't want to go there.
People are worried about our sending a message that we're against a retail establishment.
No,
You
the
were-
message that we're sending, I just want to put it out there one more time, is that we're a Board of Health, and it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
A healthcare institution should not sell cigarettes. The only one in Massachusetts that still does are pharmacies. You can't buy cigarettes in hospitals, clinics, any place like that.
And I think that's just on principle only. That's all. I don't think.
No,
there's
it's
any-
because of their mission.
It's just you're saying.
Understand
it doesn't
what a
matter. It's
pharmacy
retail
is.
store. It's a pharmacy. They're not government owned, dishing out to people. It's a retail establishment, and they have the right to sell it. And people have the right for the choice. I'm sorry.
Well-
You're caught up on this It shouldn't happen. Well, that is an ethical thing. It's not necessarily a Board of Health issue. It's not a health issue when you walk in because you can make a choice.
Well, you know what, I think part of the problem is the corporate mentality of Walgreens compared to CVS. Walgreens has decided that it's their business model to operate kind of like a 7-Eleven with a pharmacy in the back, as opposed to CVS saying, we're a health company. And yeah, we have a retail establishment in the front, but we understand that our number one priority here is the health of our customers. We're not going to jeopardize that by selling them cigarettes. So there is a distinction here between the way these two companies operate. And we got the one that operates the way we may not.
And again, I think that's a little simplistic the way you put it. I don't
Well,
think,
change it.
honestly, I
Well,
don't
how would
think
you
that-
change the
I think it's a
analysis?
corporate, and it's not, I think it's money driven. I don't think we're gonna be more based toward
I
health.
just told you the data that don't support that.
That data is just, again,
It's
I
Wall
agree
Street
with
Journal
it
data.
doesn't matter.
That's not-
Based on what? What are the parameters? I mean, it could be that the economy's better, so everyone's up in sales.
You know, it just so happens that
Oh, But here's the point. Here's the point. CVS is still in business. From what I can tell, they're doing fine. They've made a corporate decision and they've attracted more business. Now, would they have attracted that business anyway? Who's to say? But they know that it didn't hurt them overall. They are in fact doing better
Okay, but I'm saying-
without the sale
but you're
of
saying
cigarettes.
they made-
Why? Because they made a decision as a corporation
Right.
not to have something in their stores which they knew was unhealthy for the people who came to those stores for more than anything else to buy things that make them
And
healthier.
that's where you're speculating, because you
Well,
don't know
no,
what their
that's
decision
corporate.
is.
They
made
what
a
do
decision-
pharmacies do? They sell you stuff
They
that's
made,
going to make you
what
healthy.
pharmacies do is trying to make money. And they made that decision
But
saying
what-
maybe
but
it's going to
what is-
attract more
what
people.
is their
I
business?
don't think they
They're not
said.
selling 2x4s.
Hey,
They're selling
But you said they made the
pharmaceuticals.
decision because they want only healthy things in their stores. You don't know that.
They rebranded the stores. It says CVS Health.
Yes, but again, it's a corporate policy for money. It's not necessarily because they want
You're
to.
being awfully cynical here,
No,
Jeff.
no, I'm not, because
The
it is
label
a
has a
business.
meaning. The label has a meaning.
Yes, it's called marketing.
do you know
But the
that?
meaning has to do with what the priorities of the store are.
Oh, God. Seriously?
Why would you label yourself something
It's
that's not what
marketing.
you are?
Because it's marketing.
Do you know there are other
You're a cynic.
establishments besides CVS and Walgreens that are pharmacies have in them, Stop and Shops and Wegmans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wegmans.
And they sell
has-
alcohol in there, too.
Wegmans has taken cigarettes out of their stores. Target has taken cigarettes out of their stores. So,
But they still sell beer and wine by the
but
aisle.
it doesn't,
What? What? I don't think you guys are
I
making
see a
ethical
differentiation.
determinations.
You're missing a
I
big
see
point
a
here.
difference.
Cigarettes
I don't think
kill
so.
you.
yeah.
And alcohol doesn't?
No.
Oh, you-
A glass of wine with dinner actually is healthier than if you didn't have
And
it.
if you had one cigarette a week, you tell me
That's
that
not
would
the
kill
way
you
you
faster?
smoke. People don't smoke that way.
Yes,
That's
it's
the whole point.
addictive.
Nor do
There's-
alcoholics
there's
drink that way.
nicotine.
It's
What?
And alcoholics don't drink that way.
No, but 90% of the folks who drink alcohol who aren't alcoholics do drink that
You
way.
don't, Tom, again.
Come on.
Come on.
You should use some sense here. Cigarette.
I am using sense.
No,
You're
you're not.
painting it with a broad stroke.
Cigarettes used in the way they are normally consumed can kill you. Alcohol used in moderation, like I was just describing, in fact, can have some beneficial effects, or at the very least, has a very, very, very mild negative effect. There's a huge difference between those, having to do with once you're addicted with nicotine, you need so many cigarettes a day to satisfy that habit, and you know what? That'll cost you.
And again, you're going down the road of the addiction thing, right? We're Board of Health. Okay, so again, no, it's fine.
It's nicotine. What do you
It is
think?
fine. There's a lot of addictive things.
But this one
What about caffeine? That could cause damage to you.
is a question of, okay, so you have a cup of coffee in the morning.
But again, you're a cup of coffee. What if someone has that? What if they are addicted to caffeine and they want to keep drinking it, and it does cause issues with them? That's a health issue.
There's a spectrum of probability here. You're way out on one end of the spectrum. I'm sort of in the middle.
I think you're
saying
painting
this
with a
is what
broad
the
stroke.
average
That's all I
is.
say. You are.
I'm talking about the average, okay? Most people who consume alcohol are not alcoholics. You're saying they are. I'm
No,
saying
I'm
they're
not. I'm saying there's
That's
that
the-
possibility,
that's
'cause it is a
model
health
that you're
issue.
using, though.
But I'm saying that is out there too. I'm not saying. I'm saying don't ignore
out there
it.
on the fringe, you're right, it's out there. A lot of things on the fringe are out there. We have
not
to deal with
necessarily
the
fringe,
average. We have to
Let's
deal with
not
the
forget
average.
about
Average, 'cause
genetics.
now we
Because
just-
that's
when
our
it comes to
population.
alcohol.
That's the
Again,
ones we
it just
gotta
is-
worry about.
It's over-regulating, in my opinion. That's
Well, I understand that argument, I really do.
Okay.
I understand that. The whole nanny state argument, I get that. I got it at town meeting when we voted down marijuana, Frank. Said, wait a minute, compared the public health issues here and here, there's, why are we outlawing this thing and not this thing? Yeah, there are public safety issues, driving high. Okay, that shouldn't happen. But in terms of public health, in terms of it's going to have some impact on your biology, it's like night and day. Anyway, you're going to wait
We all
for a
have an
month?
opinion.
I'm willing to wait for a month.
All right, we will revisit
fine.
this in April.
Okay.
It has been interesting discussion. I do appreciate, this has been the liveliest Board of Health meeting I can remember in a very long time.
Anytime you bring up tobacco.
Thanks for hanging around, Walter.
Next week we'll discuss guns.
Always,
I wish, Walter, I wish, I
we're going to
understand,
propose disbanding the Second
just
Amendment.
one comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking?
No, that's all
I
right.
didn't see her. I wish that one of us had been invited to the planning board meeting before the planning board took the vote. I know, I looked after the fact and it was on the agenda. However, I don't look at everyone's agendas, and I honestly feel that all the people in the planning board did not understand where we were coming from when we drafted this regulation.
Well, we're going to be in this room tomorrow night, and I suppose if you were to come, we'd let you speak, but
Well,
up to you.
do you think you would take another vote?
That I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I could ask you to take another vote, I guess, if it makes a difference.
We can't vote
But-
tomorrow night, it's not on the agenda, so.
No.
I see, okay. But I think that as I traverse the boards and of the town, I think it would be helpful in the future if, when things come up that did cross boards, that somehow
Well, yeah, I would agree with you.
the other boards were invited.
I agree with you. There's too much of the silo mentality in the town. We don't really talk to each other
Yeah.
about what we're doing. Unless you happen to look at the agenda or read the minutes, and you don't know what's going
Yeah.
on.
And
But
there's,
anyway, that's-
everybody, I appreciate everybody's time, all the boards that
thank you for taking the time,
volunteer,
Walter.
I know.
Yeah,
See
thanks,
you tomorrow
Paul.
night.
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, on to our agenda and
We'll schedule the
minutes
date.
of,
You
Could-
want to schedule the date for the next meeting while we're?
well,
Could we
Do we
just talk a little bit more about tobacco for
No.
1 minute?
No.
Just 1 minute, 1 minute. Only because
before.
I went into Norfolk Food Mart, because I wanted to see what their display looked like as well. I went into Walgreens. There's supposed to be a 48-inch sign.
not 48.
Not 48.
Well, that's
You know,
what
I
it
couldn't find
says.
any. Did you find any?
Where's the
Paul?
regulation? You have the regulations
So,
there.
my,
48 square inches. Is that
I'm
right?
sorry, not inches. Or maybe it's square inches.
48
It said
inches.
inches.
Square inches.
Square
maybe.
inches.
Did it say square?
I sent everybody signs.
They said, anyway, where does it say? I read it. I didn't remember the
Anyway,
square.
I've got to get some more signs. The health inspector has been around doing inspections, and he pointed it out to me as well.
Yeah, I didn't see one in, I couldn't find the one at Walgreens, actually. It was in there
I
this
sent them
afternoon.
when I sent them the letter.
Oh, 48 square, yes.
Square inches.
Yeah.
Which is 6 by 8.
7
It's
by
not very-
7, yeah.
It's not very large.
Yeah, but 2 signs, right? One that says that it's against the law to sell cigarettes, and the other one that gives the age. Is that right?
You've got the regulation.
Yeah. One, so they have to display an 8 by 15 inch by 11 inch that says that the sale of tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, to someone under the minimum legal age of 21 is prohibited. And then they have to also put one that says it's against the law, and there's a fine. And that references the Massachusetts general laws.
I think that's all supposed to be on one sign.
Yeah? I don't know. Anyway,
I
they...
have the sign. I got
Okay.
it from the clearinghouse.
Okay, okay, good. I just wanted to mention that, because neither one of them had them.
All right.
That's it.
Would you like to be the person who actually walks in the front door and say, here's your sign? Because I somehow, it's not getting from the mailroom to the front door, because I don't think it's up there. I've looked for it, unless it's really in an obscure
Well, there are
place.
four
Seven, we've
places
got
that,
7.
we have 7 facilities that are permit. Then, do they, and when, do the permits always go out on the same time of the year?
Mhm.
So is that how they get the sign, or do they get it?
I sent it when we did the tobacco regulations
Oh.
last year.
So, do they don't all sell food either? I was thinking that when they get a food inspection, when you said, who did you say did
Mark
the?
Oram is our health inspector that does our our food inspections.
Okay.
So he looks for that as well.
Is he reporting the non-existent signs when he does his inspections? All right, we got to get a list of the non-existent signs.
Yeah, he's around. He emailed me this week. He said if I get him some signs, he would distribute them
Oh,
Okay, good.
when he does his inspections.
all right.
All right, I'm off the hook.
You can go
Nice to
check,
visit our
you can go
retail
check to make sure they
establishments.
did it, though.
Sure.
Seriously, follow along.
Compliance check.
But, yeah, exactly.
There's not a lot of free space around those cigarette boards.
There is or
Seems to
there
me
isn't?
There's not,
There's
at
not.
least not in Walgreens. All right, so we're back to, Yelda?
Oh, yes.
How about May 1st for a date?
Oh, I don't think
May Day.
it's just gonna work. Wait a minute.
What, that's a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Oh, maybe it will. Wait one sec.
May the 1st. I think it's okay.
May 1st.
For now.
Oh, I don't think I'll,
It's graduation week for us.
that should work. Is that gonna work?
You hope.
Yeah, I have something, but I think I put it through too many days, yeah.
All right,
Tom?
so May 1st.
May 1st.
Minutes from January 30th, how do they look?
I thought, I
Okay,
didn't see anything that,
is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from
May 30th.
January 30th, 2018.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
What did you say, May 2nd, is that what you said?
May
May
1st?
May 1st, I'm sorry.
It's Tuesday?
Okay.
Correspondence review.
So, this was the only thing that I pulled out that I thought might be of interest. And it has to do with the land at Abbeville, and, is that right? It is, the man, it has to do with the Buckley Man land. So that's
the
Abbeville,
site, yeah,
right? The Abbeville site.
correct.
But not all the land is Abbeville, right? Or is it all going to be part of the 220?
Yes, it's a cluster development, very similar to what Rick showed earlier. So the whole,
Wade, could you bring your microphone over so you can...
I believe it's a cluster development, so
Probably
the
for.
whole land is part of the development.
So there's a part of it that is called an
Activities and
activity use
use limitation.
limitation, which is what this is all about. And DEP is now, well, they should have been involved all along, because the activity,
They were involved in all along,
this started back in 2000?
probably even farther back.
Well, when did they leave? When did they stop operation there? And they capped this land, so there is a capped,
I don't have all the answers to that. I'm not
Okay.
prepared
Well, the
for it.
capping process sounds like 2000 or something. Right.
Well, that area was capped, and it was certified by a site professional, land site professional, and I've read one report where it was a 21E report that Placido used when he purchased the property, and I read the summary, and that particular person involved with investigating hazardous waste on that property cleared it. So then when I read about this was kind of surprising. So a couple of violations. One violation is dealing with paperwork, signature, if the right person signed some documents. And the other one is that they're bringing up some possible contaminations they might be finding at adjacent to that AUL area, and they're going to reopen investigation. And I believe that's been going on for the last, since November.
Okay.
And there's a deadline coming up, correct?
Correct. And the last thing I've heard is that the testing that they found out there, the red colors was iron.
So it wasn't dye.
No, not that I know of, no.
Did they test for, do you know?
It's on the second page. I'm not privy to all the
Yes,
information.
they don't say that they test for organic dyes that,
They're testing for heavy metals.
yeah, heavy metals, chromium, lead, zinc.
Is that separate from this one? Wait a minute. You have
Did
two
I not
different-
give you the right thing?
Uh,
I just
you
made
did, but,
copies.
I don't see that
Flipping.
page. I'm looking.
There
This
you go.
activity happened when the factory was running there at the time.
So this says failure to include a stage 1 environmental screening in 2001.
Mhm.
Anyway, I read this several weeks ago, too, so it's not all, and then I just saw it again tonight. But the reason that I mentioned it is that there's, the town zoning board, I guess, is going to hire another licensed
Site professional.
site professional to do another study there. And,
I think it's ongoing right now.
no, I don't think they hired him.
Oh, okay.
They just, which, again, is when I mentioned to Walter, you know, it would have been nice if we knew that they were going to talk about tobacco regs. Was there also a meeting of boards with the De Placido? I heard at the selectmen's meeting that there was a meeting of like one person from each board. Did anybody go to a meeting recently? And this is how they decided they were going to hire this? No.
We were invited to
know.
that? Because usually, I heard they had the round tables, they used to have round tables, and they always asked someone from the boards to go, but
No.
the planning board have it?
That's what the selectmen said last night, and I think it was, the representatives from the selectmen was Jim Lee, and I don't know who the other people were that were invited, zoning board and conservation board, but,
Did this happen last night?
no, last night was just a selectmen's meeting that I went to because I'm making the rounds.
Uh-huh. Keeping an eye on things, huh?
Well, I
Good
just
idea.
wanted to see how things were.
Did they refer to it as a round table meeting?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, that's weird, usually do get invited to those.
So, and that's where they said they were going to hire this licensed site professional. But anyway, there were lots of people from Abbeville there last night, and they were concerned about, apparently, was there some drilling that was done there recently on a Friday? They were asking
There are
the,
test holes, soil testing, so we're looking for groundwater observations.
were
I
they
was there.
in the, yeah, it was, I don't know who was there. They mentioned that someone from the Board of Health was there. But was it in the same area where this activity use limitation is? Because that's what, they're concerned that people are drilling on sites and we don't know what's under the sites because it never really was monitored according to this.
Activity and use limitations area is a no zone for any type of digging. It's like a mini landfill, there's a cap to it. You can't break the top of it
Yeah.
because then precipitation would go in and draw out the contaminants and move within the groundwater. The neighbors across the street are concerned about it because they have private wells. Well, that AU well has been there for a long time.
But what about all the foundations? That's not in the limited use site.
No, when they took down, what I read in the 21E report, part of that AUL is part of old parts of the construction of, a breakdown of the industry. They threw everything in there. They didn't ship off. So yeah, you could probably have some concrete in there, but that wouldn't be considered hazardous.
I don't know, they were concerned about the foundations, the pipes that are still all underneath there, and that there's drilling going on, and
There were test holes looking for groundwater.
test holes.
Yeah,
looking
well,
for
But these are not
groundwater.
around the industrial site, are they?
No, they were down gradient. they were downgrading. We were probably maybe 80 feet, 100 feet away. I've actually have a map. I don't think I have it with me. I had a map that actually showed the locations where I was. I thought I had it with me today. Oh,
Are the buildings all gone now? All the old buildings, the
There's-
die buildings?
there is floors, the basement floors are there. the
Floors are
slabs.
still there?
The slabs are there, yeah.
Have you ever walked around inside them? Did they have floor drains?
You know, I'll look next time I go there.
There's one thing I'm worried about a little bit is, we have floor drain rigs now, and tight tanks below them, right?
Yeah, but if,
Not in those days.
no, they dumped it in the AUL area.
Well, that,
They have pits.
when we looked at
Well,
that subdivision back in conservation, we asked them to find out. There was underground sluiceways that connected between the buildings, and we always wanted to know where they went.
Where? Yeah.
So
it.
this
No one
is
would-
what
no one ever
somebody
looked into it.
printed out for me
Partially
today.
buried, or what was there, so we told them to do dye tests.
This is
you know,
where the site
practice
is?
water.
I think I have a map for it.
You have a
Just-
better
Yeah,
map.
I think
Good.
I have a better map. I just want to pull
I
it.
can pull up a plan.
No, actually, I
You
think I
got
got,
one?
yeah, I think I got a better map.
So all the folks there in this neighborhood are now having their wells tested, but apparently,
Well, they should have their wells tested annually.
yeah, but no, well,
Annually?
this is what they,
Oh, if I had a private well and a portable well, water was supporting my family, I was drinking, bathing, eating from it, of course I would test it at least once a year.
well, the question is what,
And then every 5 years, I do a major extensive testing. And testing your well just for like 12, 20 parameters, is like maybe $60. It's not very
but no,
expensive.
that's what they're saying. They're looking for the parameters that, they're looking for whatever was used in this dye manufacturing that wouldn't normally be used, wouldn't normally be tested for in the water. So what they're talking about is very expensive testing for organic solvents that you normally wouldn't test for, but are known carcinogens. This is what the concern that these people in the neighborhood had. Yeah, getting your well tested gives you sodium levels, I don't know, lead, whatever, but not the
Unless you ask
stuff.
for it.
No one could track
Exactly, and it's
down
gonna cost a lot.
What they used in that process before?
I'm
No one-
sorry?
No one's been able to find out what they used in the process to make the dye?
I think they do know, I don't know, but they were talking like they do, and it would be very expensive to do water testing on their wells, so they're gonna try and get together as a group and get a good price through somebody. But it's not just the regular old water test that
Well,
you
the
would.
the test that we require on private wells is actually fairly extensive. There's a long list of organic solvents, tetrachlorinated solvents, for example, that we require
Very expensive.
for new well. That's like $360. It's
Yeah,
a,
300 to 500, but it's also very extensive.
That you require, that the board requires, or the regulations
New
require?
construction.
Water.
Oh, new
New
construction.
construction and for the sale of a property.
yeah, for sale, yeah.
So maybe
If you don't
it's
have
the
town
same.
water, you have to have your well tested, and it's an expensive test.
And we haven't had any hot ones, put it that way. And there have been cells in that area
That's
also.
good to know, yeah.
Actually, related question. Up there on the kind of ledge area on Lawrence Street, as you're heading toward Rentham, going south on the Mill River,
Okay.
or Eagle Brook, by that time, I'm not sure which called. There used to be an area up there that they had some wells go in, private wells, that tested, and they came up with some detectable arsenic. Do you have any recollection of seeing that data anyplace?
No, I don't, no, but arsenic is related to rocks. I mean, there are some chemicals you can get naturally,
Yeah, I know.
depending on what kind of composition is underneath your,
Right.
or surrounding your wellhead.
Okay.
There's an apple field there.
But
So, okay.
this is
The cranberry bog
a
up
huge
there.
map. You'll see here, like, where I was at, because they wrote it on the map for me. You get a test hole here,
So,
and and what we're doing is looking for groundwater elevation.
so here's the activity use limitation area.
Yes, right around here,
So, and where are the houses gonna go?
over here. Right here.
So how come you have to test over
I
here?
believe the testing was He wanted just to verify where the water, where the models were. So I was out there with the engineer, and they were testing the elevations of the models related to the well area, I believe. I didn't really get all the details. There's another test hole as that.
Okay, but you weren't anywhere near,
Oh, of
well, I
course
mean,
not.
you weren't,
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, the
Oh, that's
test hole.
restricted areas. That is a restricted area. That is at the land cap, in our capped landfill. No one will
That's
ever
good to
go
know.
there again, ever.
and
It's
where is the
restricted.
well that De Placido, in their, what do you call it, environmental impact statement or something, that they put together, they said, well, and the town might be able to build, to dig a well in this area, because we're gonna give you this land. Where would that be, do you
Well,
know?
back here, there are 3 wells I saw, but that was done by the DPW. That
No,
was-
no,
that
this
wasn't
would be
done by
new.
Placido, and that was for possibly testing for a municipal well. That was placed in by the town, I understand. I actually looked at them. We walked by them, and they were damaged.
You're talking about
That could be a
public water
future well.
supply?
No,
That's the one you're referring to. That could be a future well for
a
the town.
future well.
Right.
This could be a future well down here.
Well, it could have been, but I don't think it,
They have that space reserved that they can use it in the future.
So, which way does the water flow? Where's the Mill River?
Great question. Towards me.
Towards you. So then this, if anything was leaching, it would go this way.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
another
And I
concern.
have a little map here. I really apologize on the size of it. And I knew that question was gonna come up, and I,
you should bring a magnifying glass when you come to our
oh,
meetings.
it's hard to get things off the will. Oh, here you go. Great. This is, this is all I mean,
You made it smaller.
the website.
He's trying
will
to
not
save
allow me-
ink.
The state website would not allow me to get any bigger on my computer. But right here, if you look right here, really closely.
Really closely.
First, look at one right there.
It's right down on top of it.
This is,
Oh, my God.
that's that's this pond right here. This pond is right here,
Blake? No.
right there, City Mill.
Turn it upside down.
City Mill. Right, and this is the water, this is the zone 2 that feeds into Franklin's 2 wells. So this location is right here. Water flow goes towards Franklin's wells. Over here, this is what we just talked about on Crest Lake. So all the water from this area theoretically goes towards these 2 wells. So it goes away from the wells here. It's going this way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Too small of a map? I do apologize.
It's okay.
All right.
Thank
moving
you. That makes me
along here.
feel better, though.
Well, thank you for bringing this up to our
I'm not
attention.
privy to all the information on the testing there. And if you are that concerned, you might want to ask maybe Tom DePlacido to come in, explain it.
Well, I don't think you can do anything right now,
Well, I mean,
the way
the
that it's.
data, he may want to, he may enjoy that.
Does this site have a 40B? Does the site have a 40B?
So behave for the closer.
But now they're not going to be able to hear you.
I thought there were 2 Abbeyvilles. There was one that had to do.
There are 2 40Bs there. There's one on the outer edge, think of it as a horseshoe, outer edge, and then there's one in the middle.
I think some might be
Apartment
rental.
buildings.
Yeah,
Rental and
right,
then.
there's a rental
then-
component.
And then then it's spread out around it.
Actually, I think that would be a great idea to have him come in and
Rentals?
just tell us, no,
What's going on?
what's going on.
I don't want to have a night off, but, I mean, have him work at night, but it might be a wise thing to do, if you're interested, hear from the horse's mouth, or maybe a representative.
Well, it's engineered, probably.
Now, Rick Goudreau was at me with the test holes, and we did talk about this. He says, I'm not really up to date on it because I'm not involved with it. So you have to get the specific entity that's working with the AUL.
Well, where are they at the 40B stage? I mean, we haven't had a chance to comment on this.
It's a 40B with an on-site treatment plant.
But I'm
so-
saying, where are they in the permitting stage? Because typically, all the boards weigh in on it.
Yeah, they do, and I did have a chance to weigh in on it when it was going for on-site septic, which is kind of concerned, and they switched it to treatment plant, so it's gonna be pretty much, I'm not gonna have much say to it. And I haven't received any comments or anything to comment about since that decision was made.
Okay.
So it's strictly a DEP.
Discharge permit.
But we do have a huge binder with the whole project outlined, right? Because I did look at it a month ago or two.
Correct. BSC did.
Wanted to look at that. What did we call it?
Environmental impact report, it was for
Okay.
the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, no, not just for the wastewater treatment plant. It was for the whole project. It went to the Mass Housing Authority or something. It's
Correct, that was a 21E.
It's called the 21E?
Well, the one that went to Mass Housing would be the 40B application itself.
Yes.
That would be the 40B.
So we do
itself.
have, they did provide that to the board.
Okay, to us?
Yeah.
I just don't
That
remember.
was that was 6 months ago.
Was it that long ago?
Oh, God, yeah.
Did
They're
you
nearing
review it,
the-
Wade?
I'm sorry?
You reviewed it?
On the original review of Abbeville, I did review the summary of the 21E report. Other than reading the whole complicated report, I got the summary. And just to put it in a nutshell, the summary cleared the site as being okay for residential use where it's at. The AUL was capped, it was not to be used, there's a no activity zone. And the state cleared it too. And the area was cleared by all agencies and also private professionals. But I think because of the concerns of the private well across the street and pressure to the state reopened it. And that's what that letter's about.
I think,
Was that ever on our agenda to look that over? I don't recall seeing that.
Wade reviewed it.
I reviewed it for planning board.
Yeah. I mean, I
I mean, I'm sorry, I reviewed it for the zoning board of appeals.
That's right, the zoning board.
I did it for the zoning board of appeals as as an office review, peer review for a project coming into
I know,
town.
like, all the boards should be weighing in on this. You know, I think we should, if, in the future, 40Bs, we should be looking at those, at least at a meeting, or at least somehow just disseminated that we
I
should
mean,
come
as a
look at
board
it.
of health level.
But we did, I'm remembering looking at some kind of a submission, remembering now the kind of inner and the outer.
I don't recall
Maybe we
doing a
won't do
review
that,
on that.
maybe.
Maybe I wasn't. I don't recall ever reviewing it.
I thought we did. I've seen the plans.
Maybe it was for, something came in regarding dynamiting and exploding.
You know what, maybe it was those next door neighbors that came in and they had the plans. It was more than that, though. But they just had ideas more than plans,
Okay.
and fears more than ideas.
I don't recall that ever, so.
This was a meeting we had like
It's
downstairs.
down the ground floor.
Yeah. All right, anyway.
When I do look at the 40Bs, I'm a little limited on the wastewater aspect, but as the boards of health with 40Bs, you could comment things like, different things, like.
We can comment on whatever we want.
You can, actually have a broad brush. You
Exactly.
could
They don't
say-
have to listen to it, but.
We like, exactly, we like healthy communities, we want more sidewalks. You can go at different angles like that from being from the Board of Health.
Well, let's just make sure if another 40B happens to come in, that we get a chance to comment on this somehow. Look it over as a
This
board.
one's not done yet, so we're gonna have to.
Yeah,
get
we
in the
should
loop
do.
when it starts to.
Well, the zoning board of appeals has the overview.
Right.
Well, right.
And our comments go to them.
The DEP is now involved here in this issue of responding to their concerns by May or something. They got a deadline coming
Yeah, I think it's probably, yeah, I think it's the end of this month, I believe.
in this month.
But I know there's been an ongoing investigation since November when that letter originally went out.
what is the, what was I just reading?
But the comments you had, Fran, as far as wells and things, I mean, that could be brought up in this commenting period, you know? All those concerns should be thrown out there to the zoning board, that they should have this in front of them. And there could be, they could put in some type of thing, maybe put in a monitoring well downstream or something like that, you know, something that could be contingent in that 40B that kind of takes care of some of these concerns.
But the wells you were talking about, Wade, were actually wells that were being dug for the purposes of planning?
What I saw
Where
was,
you wanted that, ours?
um,
Is that
I
Board of Health?
I was on their dime as a witnessing. They wanted a witness to see what groundwater elevations they were determining at the time. We did deep observation holes. There was no wells at all, nothing was
Oh, because they said,
excavator.
the
I was, it's a-
residents that were there were saying it was the Board of Health representative that was there.
I was.
It was.
Yeah, they,
There's many hats.
No, I know, but.
probably, yeah,
but
I
you
saw
weren't-
someone drive by and look at me, I was,
Oh, they
recognized you,
thought
yeah.
it was
See?
from us, that
Well,
we
that-
had
That's
sent
for,
them out
a
there.
groundwater recharge area or something?
I'm not really sure why I was out there, but I was there to make sure that the determination of the models were correct. That's what they wanted me out there for. Proof. So they're not out there by themselves, just digging holes.
Witnesses.
Yeah,
so
witnesses. I was a witness.
Someone come in and we say, I don't blame you.
So, yeah, the groundwater's found at 56 feet. And I said, no, it was, found at 7
All
feet.
right.
And I believe it had something to do with the AUL.
All right, to be continued. Let's see what the state finds.
Okay.
MRC updates.
Oh, before we continue, I just want to make sure, like, we should be able to get comments back to the zoning board on this. I mean, so, Fran, if you have something that you want to get to them, you should get that to them, or somehow we should get it to the zoning board.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to the selectmen meeting and the residents that were here and their concerns about doing well water testing. But I mean, I don't really know I guess I should go up there. And their concern about the buildings, like you mentioned.
Can we do this then?
Well, they were talking about blasting and the worry about getting
No,
new
that-
fractures in the ground, in the bedrock. They were gonna bring some of the stuff from the AUL all the way into their, their bedrock artesian wells.
Right.
Well, can we find out this, Betsy, can we find out how we get our comment to the zoning board, if we have them as a board? Can we find out,
How you get them to them?
yeah, like, what's the process, where they are in this? We'd still like to potentially get comments in and
Better
where
get them in pretty quick. They're
That's what I-
getting ready to wrap this up, I
Really?
think, yeah.
Oh, I think they're
That's what I'm
going to
saying,
extend it because they have this, they haven't even hired this licensed site professional, a new one. And the resident was here, was hopeful that they would hire someone with experience in health
Well,
assessment.
can we just find out if we do have comments, how we get them in, if we can, or whatever?
You can absolutely get them. All you need to do is compose a letter and,
Get them to the zoning board.
Well,
What is it about?
what are you asking about?
Well, she's asking something about the water, concerns they have with water wells, correct? What does that-
No, I'm just telling you what the folks that were here last night were
Mhm.
concerned about. And they,
You're concerned
feel-
about the water, you said the testing of potential carcinogenics in the water.
in their own wells.
Right.
But they're
but
doing
they're just
speculation.
doing-
They don't
yeah,
have
they
any
don't-
data
they
to
don't-
go on to
right.
suggest there is any.
But we can, you can throw that suggestion in a letter and get it to the zoning, that, hey, maybe they see some type of testing protocol at the perimeters of the property to make sure this
I
doesn't
think that's
leach into the
probably
wells.
I think that might already be being done, Jeff.
See, again, I don't know where we
No,
are.
we're
on
on the
this.
outside, this has been a long-going process, and go to one meeting and hear some concerns, and then start gearing up another government entity to jump into for another comment period.
Yeah.
To just caution that, I mean,
That's why,
Would
no,
you
this
do
whole
good
idea
out
of
of
a
that?
person from each board going to a meeting, and, when we've got such a huge development going on.
well,
I
the zoning
think
board
that
of
was
appeals
a-
has that charge.
But again, as a 40B, all the boards are supposed to comment on it and get their comments to the zoning board. And like I said, I never saw it.
No.
I did comment, I can maybe pass that comment to you.
Question I have.
That's just in case.
As long as someone's looking into the water issue, is that what you're telling me? Is that?
I'm not involved with any more comments anymore, no one's giving me any comments to comment, plans to comment on.
But didn't you just say that you believe that's already been looked into as far as the water testing at the perimeter of the property?
Well, that's why it's nice to have someone come in and talk to the Board of Health, someone who's part of the project, and can probably talk to you, open up some concerns or answer some concerns you have, other than trying to jump into the game and start becoming.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what point
Information
we're at, we
that
have
can
comments, we have
advise.
comments. I mean, I think you should at least get a letter to them saying, just mention it, say, we have concerns of water testing at the edge with the carcinogenics, go to the zoning board, throw it in there. Just get it in the mix right now. So you said you did something with it, you know? It's very late, I don't know why it's so late, we've done this, but you should throw it out there, absolutely. Because we're not gonna meet for another month, and at that point, it could be too late. So just get it in there.
Okay.
Now, the AUL, let's say the AUL is leaking. Let's say it's leaking. Is it really part of that project that's going on with the 40B project? The AUL was developed or created.
Let the zoning board argue that.
But I'm talking to you about that, you know, so it's two different things being balanced right here.
Well, that's why I asked you.
And this old AUL is now
Yeah.
becoming,
Who owns that property?
well,
Man.
Is it man still?
Yeah.
And not, so, did Placido own anything?
I don't know about his finances.
I don't believe so.
I don't know. So you got a couple of things going on there at different tiers and at different responsibilities and different you know. And also then you got people with private wells. That's a responsibility too. And this project may bring in water down Lawrence Street,
Well, it's,
which would be a benefit to the area. And then as boards of health, and if there is some pollution stream going towards the residents' wells and stuff, and there's a solution, the Board of Health could be very powerful and very saying you must or require people to test their wells, and if it doesn't meet it, have them tap into the town water. So their houses won't become uninhabitable. I mean, I'm not sure how, but going back to the AUL, and no one's ever complained about it, but it's coming up now. And the state has reopened up a case, which is very rare.
well, according to the
And what they're looking
residents, they were the ones that,
And what they're looking at, Fran, is very
Realize that.
heavy metals that don't travel very much. They don't travel much. So people are looking at it, getting frightened, speculating. We want to retest it again.
so why would the iron levels be so high there?
I think what they found was iron. There's iron found in the natural environment all the time.
But normally in our town?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Holbrook, for instance, I've been sent down to Holbrook quite a few times by the conservation, insisting that this iron bacteria is pollution. I go to the same place, same time, I look at it each year, I say, no, that's bacteria, it's iron bacteria weeping out of the ground. I've been at times where people said, there's oil sheens here, it's pollution. Someone's machine opened up, and I was at there, it's manganese. Separating, coming out of the ground on the wet ground, and the sun hits it, it looks like an oil sheen, but it's really manganese. It's a mineral. So yeah, there's a lot of things.
But
We
the
talk about arsenic in the
foundations
well.
and the pipes, I think, and like you mentioned, the drain holes, I think those are the other things. I don't know if there are any, but those are the kind of things people are concerned about.
So yeah, the 21 reports, the 20 investigations, they do drill in through underneath foundations. It's a typical thing. Things leak, things get spilled, so they do a lot of multiple holes and do testings in the area. It's examined very carefully, very technically, with a bunch of people who are related to lab results, and that's what they do for 21Es. They investigate it and look at what's going on there originally, and now, and if someone wants to transfer a commercial property to somebody else, it's usually required to have a 21E report. That's when they go in there, the technicians go in, and technical people go in, and they test for environmental insults. They look for pollution. So if you had a pipe underneath the foundation, and there's been a few licensed site professionals there, they missed it. That's really bad.
And they already had one study or something.
Couple studies. I think
Okay.
2 of them in there already.
Okay, I don't know, these people seem like they're still very concerned.
There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of homes being built.
It's a huge, I think people are afraid of just the fact it's such a large-scale operation. I mean, we're talking about lots of grade changes, they're talking about, well, they were worried about blasting. I think they misinterpreted the fact that grade changes mean blasting. Well, not if you're taking out gravel,
No, that gravel will probably be done by shovels, front-end loaders taking it out. I've been up, we were on one ridge, and we dug down to see what was there, and it was all Hinkley soil sand. And went down probably to the elevation where they're gonna probably, if the project goes through, level it out for the homes. There is a part with a lot of bedrock there, and there's a lot of graffiti on it. And what they're gonna do is build around it, they're not gonna touch it.
I think
Or they might bury part of it.
another concern is the bridge that goes across the lake right there. If you take a right off of Park Street onto Lawrence, that bridge couldn't hold construction vehicles. It can't, it's not wide enough.
Well, that's not a Board of Health.
You know what?
No, no, but I'm just saying, but there would be pipes
We
underneath
need to get back
that.
to the Board of Health agenda
Yeah,
here,
okay,
guys.
okay,
That really is
okay, yeah,
fine.
let's go.
All right, MRC, back to you, Fran.
So, there was a volunteer fair. Did one of you guys go? I was away. I was in New York. But there was a volunteer fair that Betsy really helped out with. She wasn't here, I wasn't here, but we helped out to get it started. One of the members of the MRC ran it. And I guess as a result, she signed up 8 people. She, Dr. Siegel, signed up 8 people for the MRC. So it's moving along. We have a meeting next week, and we have an emergency dispensing site plan that we did get from the state, and I don't know, Betsy, how is that going?
I haven't touched it.
Okay. But we're going to just fill in the names of the people, and I'm going to a meeting in April on how to implement it, how other towns implement a plan. You know, it has to go to all the players, which include selectmen and the fire and the police, and then you have to run an exercise. So, anyway, more to come.
All right. And we have a rabies clinic.
On the rabies clinic, right?
On the 28th of April.
Will be on the website.
It's already on the website.
Unanticipated, what is unanticipated in business, as opposed to just?
It's a coverall.
Business we weren't expecting, Tom. That's what that is.
Never know what to expect. All right.
I just wanted to, we jump back to Norway Farms, I just want to mention, if they're going to do this mass analysis, are we going to need money? Who's going to be doing the review? Do we have to get more money from the applicant for you or whoever's going to be reviewing?
Possibly, yeah.
Right, just want to make sure that's
Sure what the numbers
tracked. Yeah, and just be careful. I know it's on them. I say they mentioned they did some soil testing. There's an area they're doing about a 12-foot cut, and I just want to make sure that there's no soil testing done in that area yet, and they're just going to cut this thing down and go past models. So
I was out there for the soils, and we didn't go down near this crystal.
I'm saying there's an area in that road where you look where those lots are. They're cutting 12 feet. So
Oh, they
if
are
they're gonna-
cutting 12 feet. Well, say they went out there and they started doing test holes and stuff in elevation here, and they come in and they do a cut and fill. When the plants come in, I go, look, guys, we have to go back.
Right, that's
and
what I want to be aware of. Right. Okay.
But I was gonna mention too, for the mass balance analysis, the mass balance analysis will probably end at the shores of Crystal Lake, not at the opposite end.
As long as, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we can call that a sensitive receptor, but technically it is. I don't want to
You
get,
could call it. if
That's
you
the thing.
wanted,
I
but
think
it's not recreational though.
through home rule and what's going on with DEP, we can call the sensitive receptor what we want to call it. I don't want to just be limited to what DEP says is a sensitive, it's not like that anymore.
That
So-
is correct.
So let's
Correct.
pick something and make sure. Mostly the ones on the fringes I'm concerned with. You got small lots, you got those up there, and all the credit lands on one side. I'm more concerned with those ones up by the corner of Lake and Medway.
And I
So
think those residents are probably very happy that you feel that
they
way.
should be. I mean, those are small lots, and they said they probably are on cesspools, and that's the area that we gotta look at for this thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Sleep better at night.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Take
okay,
this.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn? No, sir?
Second motion.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned at 9 o'clock.